All right, so AEW Dynamite just wrapped up from the old ECW arena. Not too bad of a show. So the packed crowd of about 990 people, whether that's good or bad, take it for what you will. So the show actually started off with Gabe Kidd coming out. I actually was like, who is this guy? Completely forgot about him. But anyways, he comes out, he's yelling, just very, very upset, mad at the world. And he starts talking about Darby Allin. And before you know it, Darby Allin pops up out of nowhere, good or bad, depending on how you take. So Allin shows up, they battle back and forth. Gabe almost chokes Darby out. And then Darby takes care of Allin, gets out the skateboard, which has tacks on it. And they're like, uh-oh, here come the tacks. And Wheeler Yuta. Out of nowhere, the Yuta pops up, and Yuta actually gets tax. So Alan goes to the top rope, jumps on his skateboard, which leads to jumping on Yuta's back, and Yuta's got tax in his back, and that pretty much ends that segment. Gabe Kidd hurting for certain with tax in his back. That's just how it is. So then the Death Riders actually came out, which led to Hook coming out, which led to the Ops coming out, and a big brawl until the Death Riders decided to run away. Some people will say they're cowards, some people will say they're good people. Up to you to interpret that way. So, anyways, then we go to the back and we see Darby Allin battling with Gabe Kidd as they battle through the crowd. And out of nowhere, they run into a truck that has a rope that's tied to a body bag. Darby Allin actually puts Gabe Kidd in the body bag. He's zippered up. He's in the body bag, Undertaker style from the 90s. And what? Darby Allin jumps in the truck and he drives away with the body bag dragging behind. Looks like Gabe Kidd will be missing for quite a while as he's been taken out. And so the first match of the evening was for the TBS Championship as the champion. Mercedes Monet defends against Alex Winter. Now, Monet came out with only one, yes, one of her titles, the TBS Championship, which she was defending. Unfortunately for everyone else, the other titles were MIA. But it was a good match. Basically, I think what they're going to try and do here is Mercedes is going to hold the title till she breaks Jade Cargill's record. And then once she breaks Jade's record, she'll probably lose it. But a good competitive match between these two went back and forth. And as you expect, Mercedes Monet successfully defends the TBS Championship. And then Alex Winter, after the match, goes for a handshake, and Mercedes flips her the bird. Well, the bird has been flipped. Then they get into it. Mercedes ends up getting Winter in the bank statement, and out of nowhere, a big return happens. That's right, Rio has returned to AEW. And people were going absolutely batshit crazy as Riho picked up the TBS championship and smiled as Mercedes looked very upset. Later in the show, we did find out it will be Mercedes Moné defending the TBS championship against Riho at All In the 6 coming up on the 20th of September. All right, so then we go to the back and we see Hook and the Ops kind of getting a confrontation. Hook's basically like, I don't need your help. I don't want your help. You disgust me. Get out of my face. And Samoa Joe says, whether you like it or not, we got your back and we will be there to help, whether you like it or not. Hook does not look impressed and he walks away like he's had a good time. So, a little, hey, previously Hook was in the Ops, then he got injured, then he was taken out. And now he's back, but he's not in the ops. But he's friendly with them. No, not really. He's not really friendly with them. But eventually they will work together going down the line. Then Mark Briscoe comes out, and you think initially, well, he's going to call out MJF, Maxwell Jacob Friedman, but no, he calls out Kyle Fletcher and says he wants a shot at the TNT Championship. So I don't know if this is like a swerve and we'll forget about MJF and then MJF will cost Mark Briscoe the title, but that's definitely the way they're going about it here. And I'm not really sure why they're like everyone thinks it's Briscoe and MJF. That's where everything is going. And the next thing you know, Briscoe wants a shot at the TNT title. He wants Kyle Fletcher. Could happen, maybe won't happen. Time will tell. But the Don Callis family does come out without Kyle Fletcher, the TNT champion. And Don says, you and Takeshita Saturday at Collision. And Briscoe says, I'm down, but I want a match tonight. And Rocky Romero steps up. It looks like we're going to get Rocky Romero versus Mark Briscoe, but Don Callis says, no, I'm not feeling that. What we're going to do is have Mark Briscoe one on one with Lance Archer. And you're thinking, all right, that shouldn't be bad. And then you remember Lance Archer loses almost every match he's in unless it's against a job guy. So I'm not exactly sure what the purpose was besides Mark Briscoe getting a big victory over Lance Archer. He hits the froggy bow. 1, 2, 3. Mark Briscoe picks up the dub, and he will be on Collision this Saturday night, one on one with Takeshita. And yeah, so that was that. Then we go to commercial break. We come back and we get a Tony Storm promo, and she doesn't really call anyone out. She just says, I'm ready. Whoever wants a shot at the women's championship, my championship, I'm ready. So no definitive challenger for the women's championship with the pay-per-view only a couple weeks away. We may not get a women's title match, or we might get a rushed feud. Something quickly builds in the next 2 weeks. Regardless, Tony Storm wants a challenger, and she's down to fight anybody. And then we had a tag team title match with the Death Riders, Cesaro and Wheeler Yuta challenging Brodito. I don't really know. There wasn't much build to this match. I'm not really sure why it was rushed, why it was put together. I mean, they could have built it up and actually had the match at the pay-per-view, but that's not really AEW style. They like to put on matches. That's where the best wrestle, don't forget. So they had a pretty quality match. The people were into it. Then they kind of died down. Then they got back into it. Then there was a shit ton of outside interference. And you know, Moxley came out, Shafir came out, which led to Darby coming out. Darby kind of took care of Moxley. And in the end, it was Brodito with the big retain picking up the dub and retaining the AEW Women's Tag Team Championships. Now, earlier in the night, we saw Ricochet and his crew, the Gates of Agony, challenge the Hurt Syndicate to a trios match at AEW All In Toronto on the 20th. And at this point in the show, we went back and Renee was standing by with MVP, Bobby Lashley, Shelton Benjamin, the Hurt Syndicate, and MVP says, you won it. You got it. This, that's right. This pay-per-view, it's going to be your downfall. MVP, Shelton Benjamin, Bobby Lashley, the Hurt Syndicate accept Ricochet's challenge. So at All In, it will be the Hurt Syndicate versus Ricochet and the Gates of Agony in a trios contest. Then Adam Copeland comes out. Him and Christian are going to have a little conversation, talk about FTR. But before Christian even comes out, FTR jumps in the ring and attacks Cope, beating on him. Then out of nowhere, here comes Christian Cage for the save. As Christian said, you helped me with Nick Wayne. and I'll help you with FTR. And that's exactly what happened. And FTR, Adam Copeland, Christian Cage, they all brawled. A big old brawl to settle it all. And they kept brawling. And then eventually, the Ring of Honor wrestlers came out to kind of get in the middle to break it up. I'm not really sure because the security originally came out. They got destroyed by FTR. Then, of course, the Ring of Honor wrestlers came out. One of the Ring of Honor wrestlers actually got a spike pile driver from FTR. Dax was busted wide open. It's not an AEW Dynamite until someone is busted wide open. And it wasn't enjoyable. Busted wide open. So basically, this continues on at all in. We're going to get FTR. We're going to get Adam Copeland and Christian Cage in a big tag team match. In my opinion, FTR should have won the tag titles at the previous pay-per-view. That way, this match would be for the tag team championships. It's not going to happen. But this way, you probably see FTR beat Copeland and Cage. Then FTR wins the tag team championships. Then you get Copeland and Cage versus FTR down the road for the tag titles. And Copeland and Cage win the tag titles. And everybody goes absolutely apeshit. Because who doesn't want to see ENC with another tag team title reign? You know you want to see it. I want to see it. The people want to see it. It would have been perfect to do it in Toronto. But the booking wasn't meant to be. So we won't get it in Toronto, but we will get it down the road, I'm sure. Then, one thing I noticed as well, AEW was doing is down in the bottom right hand corner on the screen, kind of like the UFC does it for their pay per views, they're showing people's tweets saying how great the show has been, how great the arena looks, pretty quality stuff, pretty enjoyable. The only weird thing about it is when the UFC does it, they usually have like famous people tweeting about the show or like previous broadcasters or people in the MMA media. AEW, I think, just had random fans, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but a new touch. I haven't seen it before unless it happened last week, maybe, and I just didn't notice it, but a nice little new touch by AEW. Never hurts to spicing things up, if you know what I'm saying. And then we got the main event. Again, an all-star eight-man tag or an all-star six-man tag. I'm not really sure what the point of these matches are, but Tony Khan loves putting them on. So we get another eight all-star eight-man tag. At least it wasn't for $1 million or $500,000 like the previous ones had been. But at the end, not too bad. So the eight-man tag was the Young Bucks teaming with the Don Callis' family's own Alexander and the TNT champion Kyle Fletcher against Jet Speed, who seems to always be in the main event somehow. They must be absolutely loved by Tony Khan because they're always in the main event. They're always in high profile matches, and they were teaming with Kenny Omega and the AEW World Heavyweight Champion Adam Hangman Page. Now, as usual, great wrestling match, back and forth, very entertaining match, lots of tags. Of course, we did go over. There's an overrun, but when isn't there an overrun on Dynamite? But at the end of the day, Kyle Fletcher hits the brainbuster. One, two, three. Kyle Fletcher picks up the victory for his team with the Young Bucks and Josh Alexander. And after the match, the Don Callis family comes out and they attack Omega, they attack Page, they attack Jet Speed. And then they set up a table on the outside of the ring. Kyle Fletcher grabs Kenny Omega, brings him out onto the apron, the hardest part of the ring. Fletcher lifts him up like he's going to give him a suplex, but he leaps off the apron and boom, brainbuster through the table on the concrete floor. Kenny Omega is Kenny Omega is hurting for certain. And that is all she wrote. Kenny Omega and Adam Hangman Page both left laying by the Don Callis family, and Dynamite ends with Kyle Fletcher standing tall over Kenny Omega, who is getting a neck brace put on his neck. Is that the next match? Are we going to see it all in? Kyle Fletcher defending the TNT Championship against Kenny Omega. Maybe we'll see champion versus champion. Kyle Fletcher versus Adam Hangman Page. Lots of potential opportunities, matches here. But at the end of the day, Kyle Fletcher and the Don Callis family stand tall as AEW Dynamite goes off the air. We'll catch you next time.